László Krasznahorkai's The Melancholy of Resistance is an allegorical novel. It is a story about the collapse of order in a small Hungarian town. Blending apocalyptic imagery, philosophical reflection, and social satire, the novel examines how fear, chaos, and manipulation can corrode the fragile structures of civilization. Written in long, winding sentences and vast, paragraph-less passages, the novel captures both the confusion and the inevitability of social decay, as if language itself were dissolving alongside meaning. The novel opens with one of the most remarkable sections in contemporary fiction. Mrs. Pluff, a timid and anxious woman, waits at a train station late at night. The train is delayed, and this simple disruption becomes the catalyst for an atmosphere of unease. Krasznahorkai describes the psychological distortion that arises from uncertainty, how the delayed train transforms reality into something more real, amplifying dread and paranoia. When the train finally arrives, the journey is no less disturbing. The passengers, confined and restless, seem on the verge of violence. The episode sets the tone for the novel, where ordinary life continually teeters toward nightmare. Upon arriving home, Mrs. Pluff finds that the town is in turmoil. A mysterious traveling circus has arrived, its main attraction being a massive dead whale displayed in a truck. The grotesque spectacle becomes the focal point for the town's anxieties. Rumors spread, and the citizens begin to sense a dark, transformative force in their midst. The circus is accompanied by a strange figure known only as the prince, a mute orator whose cryptic gestures are interpreted by a servant. Though he barely speaks, his presence incites unrest, feeding on the townspeople's latent aggression and despair. At the heart of the narrative are three key figures who represent contrasting attitudes toward the chaos: Mrs. Esther, her estranged husband Georgi Esther, and Valuska, the village idiot. Mrs. Esther is manipulative, cruel, and power hungry. She despises her fellow citizens and seeks control over the town, seizing the growing disorder as an opportunity to reshape the world according to her will. Her scenes, such as the disturbing moment when she eats brandy soaked cherries alone after an affair, reveal a woman intoxicated by her own cynicism. Her husband, Georgi Esther, is a reclusive former music theorist who has withdrawn entirely from society. Once the director of the local music school, he now lives surrounded by books and manuscripts, consumed by metaphysical questions about harmony and disorder. For him, the world has lost its organizing principle, both musically and morally. His philosophical despair mirrors the town's disintegration. Valuska, on the other hand, embodies innocence and cosmic wonder. He is simple minded but profoundly imaginative. Known for his nightly demonstrations of celestial order, using drunks at the bar to act out of the movement of planets, he believes in beauty, harmony, and purpose. He becomes the novel's moral and spiritual center, though he is powerless against the rising tide of violence. The whale, lying inert and decaying, becomes a rich symbol, evoking Melville's Moby Dick and Hobbes' Leviathan. Like Melville's whale, it represents the unknowable, the sublime presence of something beyond comprehension. Like Hobbes' Leviathan, it signifies the body politic, a collective order now dead and rotting. The town's fascination with the whale reveals their longing for meaning, even as meaning itself disintegrates. As the prince's followers grow more violent, the town collapses into anarchy. Krasznahorkai depicts this descent with terrifying precision. Mobs roam the streets, homes are ransacked, and institutions crumble. Yet, the violence has no clear cause or goal. The rioters cannot even articulate what they hate. Their rebellion is both ecstatic and empty, a release of collective rage with no object. In one chilling scene, a mob chases a family through the streets, taking pleasure not in killing them but in prolonging their terror. However, we looked for it, one says, we could not find a fit object for our disgust or despair. When the violence subsides, Mrs. Esther emerges as the de facto ruler, having manipulated the chaos to consolidate her power. Georgi Esther, shattered by what he has witnessed, retreats further into despair. Valuska, once the purest figure in the novel, becomes the scapegoat of a society desperate to restore order. He is beaten and institutionalized, his innocence crushed by the forces of madness and control. By the novel's end, the town has returned to a bleak semblance of normalcy, but the reader senses that something irreversible has occurred. The chaos revealed the emptiness beneath the civilization's surface, the melancholy of existence itself. The resistance implied in the title is not political but metaphysical, a fragile human attempt to preserve meaning in a world that perpetually dissolves into disorder. Krasznahorkai's prose mirrors this instability. His long, breathless sentences refuse closure, circling endlessly around thought and sensation. Reading the melancholy of resistance is like being pulled into a vortex, disorienting, hypnotic, and profound. The novel is not merely about the collapse of a town, but about the collapse of the structures that make the world comprehensible. In its bleak beauty, it shows how fear and chaos can overtake reason, how power feeds on confusion, and how even in the ruins the faint possibility of order or grace persists.